is power.
You'll never feel the way I feel. You don't know if my love is real. Baby, listen to me, here's the deal. When you're not here, I'm not the same. I'm needing a new chapter, babe. Been stuck here in a bed for days. I've been staring at the telephone, cause when you're gone, I miss your face. Late o'clock, body talk. There's no need to bring it up. Nothing you say makes it better. Wrecking ball, tear apart. Issues left behind, restart. Nothing you say makes it better. Hey, bring it right back to me, baby. No, we've been here before. Give me the real this time. No cap, no lies. It's our encore. Bring it right back to me, baby. I know my heart wants more. Give me the real this time. Give me the good this time. No cap, no lies. It's our encore. I never wanna give you up. I know we've been through way too much, but I'm confident we'll make it through. I'm here for you. You're not by yourself.
Information
Late
is
talk, body talk. There's no need to bring it up. Nothing you say makes it better. Wrecking ball, tear apart. Issues left behind, restart. Nothing you say makes it better.
is power.
Bring it right back to me, baby. No, we've been here before. Give me the real this time. No cap, no lies. It's our encore. Bring it right back to me, baby. I know my heart wants more. Give me the good this time. No cap, no lies. It's our encore.
All right, everybody. Peace. This is the Information Man Show. Welcome, everybody, to the program today. This is going to be an exciting program today. I welcome everybody that comes in. Definitely do me the biggest favor and make sure you share this video today. I have Afrikan Esquire on the panel with me. I'm going to bring her in just a moment. I want to thank everybody that's been supporting the channel. Make sure you, again, that you share this video in all your social media, and as well, if you are a content creator, share the video in your community tab. So I want to get right into this right now by, she has a dynamic book, and I want to look this over right now because I'm going to talk to her about her book. This is a sister that I interviewed. For some of you who might have remembered, I interviewed her maybe 2-3 years, some time ago. And she has a son now. I mean, her family is growing. And I interviewed her a long time ago. And we talked about Pan-Africanism. And I'm going to get into that with her now. What has she been doing in those areas? And the importance of where we are as Black people in this world as it relates to our connection to the continent. Now, she has this book is interesting. The organism of racism. It's the racism is the thing that's been holding us. It's really been a stronghold on Black people in this society and across the world. White supremacy is something that has been really holding and really disrupting the natural flow of our community, of our society, of our world today. And in her book, the purpose is to ensure that people and groups designated for an inferior existence pose little to no threat to the social structure and wealth of privilege that is propped up on their backs. These systems are allowed to exist, oftentimes unchallenged, and propagating dishonesty, deception of why these systems exist. This is the system of white supremacy and the system of these things that are used to impact people particularly melanated people in the continent, black people in America, throughout the world. It's a system. So I'm going to stop right there because I don't want to give everything away. But she really has this written very, very well here. Now, in fostering false identity, the American child welfare system is exposed as such a system, while the child welfare system is portrayed as a moral arbitrator in the abuse and neglect of children. Actually, this system was formulated for the specific purpose of regulating, disfranchising populations by removing children from those communities. I'm going to stop it right there because this is sort of the opening to her book, and you can get her book on Amazon. And I'm going to give the title again. It's Fostering False Identity. So with that said, I'm going to have the sister come on board with me to talk to me about her book, about what's been going on in her life, and as well as the issues around Pan-Africanism. Should it be something that we should be engaging in? Is it important for us as black people in America to recognize, we know that there's relationships that have to be built between brothers and sisters in America and brothers and sisters in the continent. And of course, there are those in America who don't want to do that, who don't want to travel abroad, do not want to make those connections with the continent. Everyone has their reasons for it, stereotypical reasons, personal reasons, what have you. But we're going to get into that with her at some point in time. But let's get into the book primarily. And with that said, let me bring her in with a clap. It's been a long time since I've talked to her, and I really appreciate her being here. So with that said, let's bring in the Afrikan Esquire. All right, sister, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me back.
All right, it's been a long time. I should have had you back a long time ago. But let me just say this. I want to thank you personally because it's been a long time since we've actually talked or did a stream together, or maybe communicated with each other by email or what have you. But the bottom line is I'm honored by the fact that you contacted me by email inquiring about promoting your book and letting me know what's going on, letting everyone know about your book, what's going on with your book and what's going on with yourself personally as it relates to Pan-Africanism, what you've been doing in that area. I've seen you on my man, Search for Uhuru. That's my brother, Dynus. I love him. He's doing some great things. He's over there in Africa. He's a prince, and he's doing travel tours over there to get people to bust out of this thing called America, this trap over here that we're in. But let's talk about your book. And I want to thank you for reaching out to me about this. Let's get into it and introduce yourself to everybody again about your channel and where they can find you on social media as well. And I will be dropping across the screen periodically as we talk today, your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, and things of that nature. And in the description of this video, I have your Amazon connection to your Amazon, where we can find your book on Amazon. I have your channel that people can follow you on your channel linked into this video on the page, and I will drop that into the chat room periodically. So let's go ahead and hear what you have to say, what's been going on with you. You are the lady, the queen of the hour, and here we go. Oops, what am I doing? Bam! There we go. All right.
Oh, thank you for having me back first. And the reason why I reached out to you is because I did have a really good time the first time. I think you might have been the second person actually to interview me. So yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so for those who don't know me, I go by Tierney Cherie. And essentially, I host the Afrikan Esquire TV channel. It's a Pan-Africanist channel, meaning I cover issues around the African diaspora, not just in America. Mm-hmm. The purpose of the channel is to raise awareness of the common plight that we have with our people. So I really cover so many different issues pertaining to not just Pan-Africanism, but also anti-capitalism, mm-hmm. Anti-white supremacy, and all the different manifestations of that system. As far as the book, I decided to write the book. For 3 years, I worked as a children's attorney. I represented children in abuse and neglect cases. And I decided that I wanted to write this book after about a year. As I was inside of the career field, I started noticing a lot of different situations pertaining to how African people are treated inside a child welfare system as opposed to white people. And it wasn't just so much on bias, but it was more so like the system was trying to respond to a lot of the social ills that have existed because of the conditions that they have put us in. You know, it was not us who wanted to be brought here, obviously, to be enslaved. It was not us who wanted to be put inside of segregated parts of town where we were not able to invest in our communities. It was not us who flooded our drugs with drugs. It was not us who put the police inside of our communities to tear the communities apart. It was not us who put ourselves in that situation. Right. So because we're in that situation, you see a lot of different systems responding in different ways. One of those systems is the child welfare system. And the child welfare system, which I explain in my book, is really a response to social conditions. And the agenda is to essentially control Black people by putting their children basically inside of a position where they're no longer with their families and they're able to be assimilated into white society. So I go through in the book, I go through the history of the child welfare system, not just pertaining to us, but also pertaining to European immigrants when they first came to America. If you don't know, they were treated as non-white, even though now we regard them as white. But part of the reason we regard them as white now is because the government made an intentional effort to assimilate them into the mainstream white class. Yes. And then also after the European immigrants, it also was pertaining to Native Americans. You see a lot of an assimilationist agenda from the government towards them. And now we, as well as still the Native Americans, but we are basically the current target of that assimilationist agenda. That's my argument.
Okay. Repeat, if you can, to everyone that's listening, your background. You said, I forgot, you're a lawyer, right?
Yes. So I worked for 3 years in child welfare. And recently I became a civil rights attorney. So,
Wow. Let me just say this. I'm glad that you wrote a book like this because it has been a well-known fact within the Black community that the social systems, the welfare system in this country, the child protective systems have been a pediment, have been a enemy and an endangerment for Black families. They're the biggest reasons why Black families have been broken up. These social systems, welfare systems, whatever you want to call them, that are supposed to protect the child and sort of assist the family. These things have destroyed families. Now, I don't want to ruffle any feathers here because I don't know how you feel about this. What is your opinion or your thoughts as it relates to the welfare system? I don't know if that's getting way off target here, as it relates to how it forced the Black man or pushed the Black man out of the household because they made it. Yeah. Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
Book. It's funny. So the whole reason that the foster care system started including Black families, because originally we were really not included inside of child welfare. The reason was, as many of you know, a lot of the historic institutions in America were segregated. And essentially African people, we just took care of our own. So if you couldn't take care of your child, you had an auntie or an uncle or a grandma or someone, or it didn't even have to be someone who's necessarily blood related. It could have been kin. They would essentially take the child, and that was our system of welfare prior to us being brought into the child welfare system. So what ended up happening is that the government started giving welfare originally to white women. If you don't know, when welfare was first created, it was literally created for white women. I think it was called mother's pensions. And so when Black women started applying for these mother's pensions, well, a lot of, especially in the segregated southern states, the response was, we can't have this. So you've seen a real effort to try to do everything that they could to ensure that Black women weren't going to partake inside of welfare. One of them is they created something called like a man in a house policy, meaning if there's a man in a house, then you can't access your welfare. And excuse the background noise. My son's a little upset that I'm on the live stream.
It's okay.
But,
it's okay.
Yeah. So essentially what will happen is if you had a husband or something like that, they said, well, you shouldn't be able to access welfare. So therefore, we're going to have these man in the house provisions. And that really put the situation where these caseworkers came in as surveillance. And if you had a husband or any type of male companion in your home, you could lose your benefits.
Yes.
So that was really an incentive to completely devastate in many ways the Black family, and in situations where, you know, I think we have these rosy pictures of how things were sometimes. It should be emphasized, a lot of Africans were in poverty, particularly in the Jim Crow South, and they had to do whatever they felt was necessary to try to access any type of funds for their families. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. In your book, and I got tight-tongued a little bit in the beginning, but you talk about the issue of white supremacy, or how these social systems are supposed to set up, or they portray themselves as being good doers for our community, that they're simply concerned about the welfare of our family, or in this case, children. Can you touch more, as it relates to your book, the connection between that and white supremacy? Because we know, as Neely Fuller Jr. said, it's a system, and Black people are subject in this system, which he calls a prison that we're in, and that melanated people are always subject to a mistreatment. He says it's almost like a religion, damn near. Can you touch on that further in your book, where you go into the areas of white supremacy? So
you don't even have to necessarily look just at Black people. You can look at how Europeans treated other Europeans. You know, child welfare was supposed to be a charitable thing, technically, because these philanthropists said we're going to help these children. But really, it was motivated by social anxiety. The social anxiety being, originally, you had a flood of European immigrants coming from Ireland, coming from Italy, coming from all types of places that weren't traditionally white Anglo-Saxon. Mm-hmm. And the solution to them was to try to bring these people into whiteness. Mm-hmm. Now, it was poised as being a charitable institution because these people were really in poverty and they were struggling. But really, it was them trying to make sure that the social order remained intact. And their way of doing that was going through the streets, and mostly in New York City, but it ended up this movement of the child savers movement is what it's called, ended up spreading to all over the United States. And it would go through cities, and they would look for children who were poor and needed help, and they would take these children from their families. And they had a whole different things that could happen to them. They could be put inside of reformatories. They could be put on these things called orphan trains, where essentially they sent these children out west and separated them from their families. There was a lot of responses. And again, this was guys as being charitable, because you're helping these poor children, especially with their parents who can't take care of them. What else are we going to do? We have to try to bring them into whiteness. So this is really how white supremacy operates. White supremacy operates a lot of ways, we should know. Obviously, there's the blatant way of extermination. You see Native Americans having been a direct example of this, because initially, whenever the white man came over, it's like, well, we have to get rid of them. And then eventually they started doing other type of tactics to control them. Well, the same thing with us. You know, once we were no longer a enslaved population, well, what do you do with them? You know, we were not ever meant to be free in America. That's something that we have to keep in mind. So what does a system do to a people who was never supposed to operate as being autonomous? Well, you do all types of things. You create all types of ways to make sure that you control that population, and if necessary, eliminate them.
Right. And we got a new president now called Joe Biden, and we saw in his executive orders there was very little in his executive. And I know he's got 4 years, folks, but there was very little he did in his executive orders to really deal with issues that specifically impact Black people in America. He did things for the gay community. Obviously, he's very much involved in this whole thing around immigration. I remember when he ran to get the nomination, he was asked in a town hall meeting or in a debate by someone in one of the reporters, sir, what is your opinion about reparations? And then Joe Biden went into this whole thing about his tirade about we're a country of immigrants. You better get over it. And I'm like, that's not the question that you were asked. Just silliness like that. So Joe Biden, I asked myself, where's the black stuff, right? But then again, you have to say as a black person in America, having enough sense in your head that, well, we shouldn't be surprised that even though 93% of black women voted for the Democratic Party, while 86% of black men voted for the Democratic Party, we still can't be surprised that we still get an empty bag like Charlie Brown's Halloween. Someone super chatted me. I just want to give them some acknowledgement if you don't mind, sister. We got Rebel Evolution, who gave me a $50 super chat. He says, no need to respect men or sexual choice to be stable with being able to have the state force you to pay for it. Well, the state has been responsible for breaking up those in our community, and because they create a system that make you dependent and a system that breaks the family up by forcing the man out because you can't get those benefits if the man is in the household. We know the history, but I want to thank you for the super chat. And what I'm going to do for you is give you the super chat music, and here we go. And I'm going to give you the super chat.
Tell them run it on.
Here we go.
I wake up. Yeah. I wake up. Flex. Thumb down now. Check. No drip this. Wet. Tell them run it on. No sleep, no rest.
All right.
Crash my but first die. Stretch. Tell them run it on.
All right, let's stop it right there and get back on task here. Thank you for the super chat. Everybody that's coming in, I know people are coming in slowly, and I know there'll be more people that will watch this after the fact, but do me the favor, hit the likes, share the video right now in your community tab if you're a content creator, and definitely go ahead and share it in all your social media. I think more people need to hear what this sister has to say, and she has a book. I'm going to put while she's speaking, I'm going to put the link to Amazon that gets you right to her book. And let me put this on the screen to give you an idea what the cover of the book looks like if I can. And there you have it. Let me remove. And thank you for the super chat again, $50 super chat. I appreciate that, Rebel Evolution. Here it is. This is a picture of the book, Fostering False Identity. This is the cover of the book. You will see that when you go to her Amazon page. And matter of fact, I probably should even share. I'm going to put that in the chat room, the link. So go over to her, and her book is about, it's affordable. It's about what, $13.99 on Amazon?
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah. So I'm going to give me a copy too. So there's I am going to get him a copy. So there's no excuse. $13.99. We always talk about, if we had black books, if we had black businesses, I'd be the first to want to share my dollars with a black person or a black business. Well, here you have a sister who has a book that's talking about issues that a lot of us understand and can relate to. Let's go ahead and give her support today by getting over to Amazon. I'm going to drop it in the chat room and purchasing the book. For those of you who are not able to get into the chat room for whatever the reason, go to the description of this video and you will see a link with the Amazon page with her book, her YouTube channel, and I'll be dropping across the screen her various social media. So I'm sorry about that. Let's get right back on track. This is your show today. We need to hear from you. Go ahead, sisters. Elaborate some more. And also do me another favor. Make sure, if you can, if you feel comfortable, if you have any examples of things that you maybe experienced personally, or family members or people that you knew who were impacted by this social system we got in this country that disguises itself as trying to help us. Go right ahead. It's all yours.
Actually, the introduction to the book, it tells a story. It calls the story of Donnie. It's actually about my father. He was a foster child, and whenever he told me his story, it completely opened up my mind, particularly as a children's attorney. And one thing that I do discuss in the book is that systems of racism, whenever you put Black people inside of that system, it's not necessarily going to change the result. So for me, being a Black person in that system, eventually you kind of start leaning into the sentiments, because a lot of it is rewarded. If you basically take a stance that you're hard against Black families and you're hard against families in general, honestly, you tend to be more rewarded. And so prior to, discussing this with him, I really didn't think too much that I was possibly doing something that could harm children whenever I sided more so on the side of the state that was trying to keep the child from the parent. But after talking to him, it really made me sort of to evaluate, whenever I'm saying that a child wants to stay with their foster parent or a child doesn't want to live with their parent. And sometimes, your client can tell you that, but most times whenever it's a young child, they really can't tell you that. Whenever I was taking those stances, it's like, well, no, I could actually be sending them to a worse situation than had they actually remained with their parent. And so a big thing that I advocate is that the best solution is not for Black children to be going into foster care. The best solution is for Black families to be safe. And for that, it's going to take us organizing among ourselves so that we can protect ourselves, so that we can care for our children, so that we can allow ourselves to have social programs among ourselves. And we have a history of this. Right now, everyone's talking about the Black Panther movie, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes.
Look at what the Panthers did. They organized among themselves. You hear about them creating childcare centers, creating sickle cell centers, creating a free breakfast program. We were able to do those things before the government stepped in and made a fake or a copycat rather, free breakfast program to basically discourage Black organization. So we know that we have the capacity to organize among ourselves, but it's just going to take that willingness for us to step up and not allow the government to convince us that they have our best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that you said that about the Black Panther Party, because growing up as a child, the Black Panther Party was founded originally in Oakland, California. When I was growing up in the western part of the country, I lived in San Francisco. I lived in Oakland. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. I got family back there. I actually, growing up as a child, knew people that were member of the Black Panther Party, and they did something. Starting the breakfast programs, all these programs that they were engaged in are things that the government either borrowed or stole or tried to create themselves and act like this is something that came from the United States government, when they were actually, as they were infiltrating the organization, borrowing and stealing their ideologies as it relates to breakfast programs and things of that nature. I know that Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who was a congressman, he was very heavily involved in trying to bring these kind of programs into Harlem. In terms of schools, he was very instrumental in passing a law that brought breakfast programs into the schools, public schools. But the Black Panther Party was doing this sort of work in our community, like you said, my sister, prior to all this other nonsense. What's holding us back? I got to ask you this question. What do you believe, if this is the case, is holding Black America back from going back into that type of attitude of do for self, create our own programs? I'm not saying that there's no one out there doing it. There's my brother Q Butter in New York, and shout out to him, who has created a school. And it didn't take him no 10 and 20 and 30, 100 years. He's got a school operating. And he's doing it with very little, he's getting support, but he ain't getting millions of dollars. So let me drop that on your lap, if you don't mind. See and hear your opinion, your thoughts.
I think a lot of it is ideological. If you look at the ideology that has been enforced on our people, particularly from the capitalist system that essentially wants us to look at ourselves as being individuals, as being consumers, as being partakers inside of the system of white supremacy, then they're trying to market to us the idea that you can live the middle class Black lifestyle and live in a white neighborhood, and that's going to be the aspiration that you're going to go for. And of course, whenever we were among ourselves, a lot of people who were essentially spending money with Black institutions or building Black institutions were doing so out of force. There's always been an element in our community ideologically that has pushed for us to assimilate into white culture. And at a certain time, it was only white culture who denied us that right, that was the one thing holding us back. So of course, after the civil rights movement and after we got some token integration, that was what we aspired to. So I think it's honestly doable. You see a lot of the movement happening right now talking about buy Black, support Black. And I think there's definitely a growing consciousness that we have to support our businesses and we have to grow our institutions. But I think we have to have a very strong ideological stance that any of these systems are not for us. And therefore we have to organize collectively among our people. But we can't be organizing just so that we can get enriched off of our people. And that's the big difference. We have to be organizing because we're organizing as a communally, actually trying to do for not just yourself, but do for your brother, do for your sister. And until we reach that level of selflessness, which we have at certain times, but until we revisit that and actually shift our ideology to not just being about the individual, but being for the community, I don't think that we'll be able to get there.
Okay, let me do this real quick. Brother Rebel Evolution has given me $100 super chat. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for the super chat.
Wasn't expecting that. You gave me a $50 super chat, and I really appreciate that. It all goes back into the channel. And then we got my man Jay Shine. Random. This is a brother from Germany. He's in Germany. He has a daughter, and he says 2 of my favorite Black YouTubers. He's a big fan of what you do. Afrikan Esquire, fantastic. He gave me $10 super chat. I appreciate that. All the super chats that you all have given me. And once again, I've got to go back into it. I've got to, give you the super chat music. You know how I do it here. And here we go. Here we go.
Time to run it all. I wake up. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip, this. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip, this. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up.
Okay, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Most definitely. And
thank you for the super chat.
And make sure you subscribe to everybody.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
All right, get that off of there. Appreciate everything. I'm gonna do my best to bring people's messages on the screen. I'll read what I can, but I most importantly want to hear what the sister has to say. So I've got to really give her the floor. So I may not be able to shout everybody out all the time because I really need to pick her brain as to where she's going with her book and what have you. The foster care system. I got to bring this up, sister. And I know it's not popular. There are more, if I'm not mistaken, there are more Black children that are in foster care systems that are not being adopted. And we also have situations where you see celebrities, like white celebrities that adopt kids from Africa and other countries. And you'll hear, and sometimes we will make little statements about that and say, oh, they want to make pets out of them. Sometimes that's how I think it is. But we can complain about it, but why? I don't want to paint a stereotype. It appears like a lot of our kids stay in foster care, because I knew some kids personally, because I've done a lot of work working with kids that were in the system forever, right? When I was in college, doing my rounds, because I work as a therapist myself in mental health. And it appears like the Black society is not adopting, or it appears like they're not adopting Black kids that are eligible to be adopted. And I know that people want babies. They don't want a child that's 10, 12, 13 years old. They don't want to deal with that in some cases because people want little babies. But what is your thoughts about that?
So one thing I discuss in the book is there's a history behind Black children being adopted by white parents, because originally they really weren't. There was a lot of basically effort to match you by race. So, African children, you go with African parents. Caucasians, you go with Caucasian. Okay. So ironically, the push to put children into the Black children with white couples came from an organization that many of us may respect, National Urban League. They actually were the ones to make a big push that we're going to start putting Black children with white parents. Right. The reason that was given was what you said. You know, there's really a lack of applicants that were available in the Black community. And there's a whole history behind that too. Let me not skate over that, because a lot of it comes from the system's requirements for being a foster parent or being an adoptive parent. A lot of them come from mainstream white society and were known to exclude a lot of Black parents who could adopt Black children. Yes. So there's that element. But the Urban League basically said, well, we're going to just make a push to put these Black children with white parents. And it's interesting. So one thing that comes out of that we have to keep in mind is that there is a lot of trauma that we don't talk about because it's not popular in actually putting a child not with their people. And it's one thing if you're talking about it's the only option, but actually in the 90s, one of the wonderful laws that Bill Clinton decided to pass, he said that you can't even consider a child's race, whereas previously it was the law that you could and say, okay, well, we have a Black couple, we have a white couple, let's put the child with the Black couple. Yes. And he said you can't even consider that. You basically have to you have to treat the Black child's race like it's nothing, or it's not any determinative factor. But studies have shown that there is a trauma to actually not being exposed to your culture. And that's what happens to a lot of children. Whenever you're putting them inside of these situations, there's one study, for example, that said that if a Black child is with their white adoptive parent, if you put that Black child and they haven't been around Black people in a room with Black people, that child will basically start to have a panic attack because they're just not exposed to them. I also quoted a lot of transracial adoptees, and these were people who lived with good families. They weren't abusive. They were good to the child. They raised the child. And you hear from the voice of the people who are adopted that, no, I mean, as much as I might have loved my adopted parent, it was very difficult for my identity. And that's why the book's called Fostering False Identity, because, no matter how much you're told that, okay, we're going to put you inside of a white society and treat you like you're white, you're still not white. And you still have to someday deal with that reality, particularly whenever you come around other people who are of your ethnicity. What do you do whenever you're put in that situation? One transracial adoptee, she was Korean, and she talks about just the devastating effects of going to Korea and feeling like she's completely severed from her own culture. You hear that. I also quoted from an African transracial adoptee. She spoke about, even though her mother was poor, a part of her will always long to be with her and know that part of her. And it was an interesting interview actually that I quoted from. It was from Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talks. And she spoke about the fact that, she basically had to be comfortable living a white identity. And although she feels like she wishes that she could be Black, she just feels like there's a big barrier between her actually having that. So it's something that's not talked about. A lot of people, you assume, you see these pictures, hey, you adopted a Black child. You assume that the child's not going to go through anything, but it's well recognized that being among your people, knowing your culture is not just important psychologically, but it is listed as a human right. There's a human right for a child to have at least exposure to their culture. So when you have people saying that, no, we don't have to do that at all, and we can essentially put them off inside of somewhere where they're completely severed from who they are, there's really huge implications for that on the child.
Why is it that you said something that definitely caught my attention? You said originally you had a situation where you had a lot of Black men and women, families that were adopting Black children, if I'm hearing you correctly. Am I correct in that statement?
So the history is it's really like a discrepancy. Like, is it that there's not enough Black people available, or is it that they're taking too many Black children? You know, I would say that they're taking too many Black children, and the issue is that the families are not being made safe. Not that they need more people to adopt, but at times where there were actual drives, there was adoption drives. So the National Urban League, they originally started marketing to Black families. The original intent was that we're going to try to get these Black children adopted. So when they specifically marketed to Black families and they started advocating to loosen the restrictions. So some of the restrictions, for example, on being an adoptive parent would be you have to live in a certain neighborhood. It can't be too dense. You have to have a certain amount of rooms. You have to, they had these things called fertility tests. Like, you couldn't have a child. If you were fertile, then they would exclude you. A lot of things that eliminated a lot of Black women. If you already had a child, you know, you couldn't be an adoptive parent. So the Urban League really was pushing to lessen those standards, and it actually worked whenever they were specifically marketing to Black parents saying, hey, we have Black children, they need to be adopted, and actually pushing legislatively to change these laws. It actually worked. The situation today, I think, is kind of a manifestation of what happened before. The discrepancy isn't so bad, but there certainly is a lack of adoptive parents available. But again, to me, the issue is that the children are being severed from their families at a higher rate than white families, at a higher rate than Latino families. So the problem has to be stop taking children from their families, particularly when it's not necessary.
Okay, now we have, and let me say peace to Raw B in the chat room. We got Money Boy, we got DOD, we got Brother Jamal, we got RY. I'm trying to acknowledge people that are in the chat room because people have come through and they're taking the time. We got my man we're here. And we got Psychopatheist, Peggy Roster's in the house. Just so everybody is coming in. Kujin 87's coming in the house. My man Clue is coming in the house. Old Reliable is in the house. Thank you. And make sure you share this video in your social media. If you're a content creator, definitely put it in your community tab. But Mr. Pirate Brain asked a very good question. He said here, the requirements were so high, Black families could not qualify to adopt Black children. Do you mind speaking upon that? And if you've already touched on that, I forgive me. I've been trying to watch the chat room, listening to what you're saying, and push out more of the content into social media, but go right ahead.
No, it is what I just said, but I'll more so emphasize, yes, that was the situation. They had a number of requirements. The idea behind it was because at the time there was essentially a shortage of white babies available for adoption. And because there was a shortage, they had to start putting all these requirements so that only the most, I forget the word they use, something like the best applicants or the most qualified applicants would actually have a child. The problem is when you take those standards that you're putting on European parents and put them on African parents or potential adoptive parents, and now they have to try to navigate these middle-class white Eurocentric standards. Well, that doesn't work. And so it's the continuation of that history where something that's put on us is not necessarily going to benefit our people. And I do want to emphasize also the Urban League's role. A lot of it was driven, honestly, after the initial, we're going to try to get Black parents with Black children. A lot of the change in their behavior was actually driven by assimilation. You hear a lot of the officials who were in the National Urban League at the time saying things that basically we Black people, we don't have a culture. All of African culture was stripped from us. We are basically white. Only if you just change our economic situation, we will be as good as white people. We will go into the white communities and we will be the same. They were basically pushing for us to be adopted by white families because to them, that was a way to get this integration, this great ideal that was put into their minds as being the pinnacle of Black liberation at the time. So it's also important for us to understand that agenda.
All right, let me ask you the honest question. And around here, we're about truth.
Tell the truth.
Brother Clue, and I want to say peace to him and Raw B out there. They got a great channel. And Kujin87, I see you. I see everybody in the chat room. Oh, my man Yaupo is in the house. Thank you for being here, brother. And we've got Original Hebrew is in the house. DOD, Back to the Basics, Money Boy again. A lot of good folks in there. Oh, we got my man. I'm gonna put him on the screen. The life of King Wage. Thank you for being here, my dear brother. Now, my man Clue, and I had it on the screen. He said the problem is that we gotta fix the system. Now, you being a woman who believes in being Pan-African, and you believe in the sense of, let me not speak for you, but I can imagine that you're about your people. You're about black family, black children, black life. I mean, can we realistically fix a system that was never, this is my opinion, Clue, and peace to you, brother, but can we fix this system when this system was not technically ever designed with us in mind? Because a lot of people will say to black people a lot of times, hey, stop complaining about all of this, man. Go and fix the system. You got politics. Get the right people in the office to represent you. What would you say, my sister?
A big theme of the book is, first of all, so the analysis that I use throughout the book is something called systems analysis. Systems analysis assumes that whatever the outcomes are of the system were actually intended. So when we're talking about black people, black families being separated, we assume that that was the intended outcome, in the same way that Native American families were separated. That was the intended outcome. So when you're looking at a system that was literally created for the purpose of separation, I don't think there's any way you can reform anything like that. Understand that the whole idea was that we're going to regulate poor people who are deemed a risk or a danger to the social order. That was the reason that they created the system. So I would advocate either completely derailing the system and creating something new. But ultimately, I think really our central focus really should be organizing among ourselves. Like we have the capacity to organize so that we don't have to have a situation where I just seen a story where a black mother, she was just arrested because she had to work and she left her children at a motel. If you can't afford childcare and you can't get on welfare, what are you supposed to do? And you don't have the family that we originally had. You know, the black family was really what kept us together. But because we've allowed our social and familial systems to be torn apart, we really are left in a situation where we're basically at the hands of white supremacy. They could do whatever they want. They can take our children, they could come into our communities, and they could tell us that we have to do this, that, and a third in order to get our children back, because we're just not poised to essentially protect ourselves. So to me, if I would, in the perfect world, I would say completely abolish the child welfare system and allow African people to do what we did before we were put into the system. And that is to take care of our own, to build up our familial structure, our kinship systems. That really was the reason why we survived slavery, and our communal, our communal behavior that we really got from the motherland.
Can you give some examples? Like, and a lot of times I don't like to do comparison with us to other cultures, because there are other cultures who did not endure and deal with slavery and Jim Crow and oppression in a way that we have here in America, because there are other ethnic groups that came over with their clothes on their back. They might have dealt with a few hardships here and there. Yeah, they had some hardships, but for the most part, they don't have the lineage that we have in this country. And so the question would be, other cultures, sometimes you don't hear them banging the door about, we need politicians, because like when I lived in San Francisco, you have Chinatown. You got one in New York. You got them all over the country. But the one in San Francisco is pretty old. They're pretty self-sustaining. They've got their own schools. Their kids go to what they call Chinese school on the weekends to learn their language, their four ways. They have businesses that they operate themselves, and you don't see us in there working in their businesses. They pretty much focus on kingship with their own people. Where black people too often, and I'm generalizing here, too often, we want everybody to love us. We want to be in this Brady Bunch type of reality, which is what you're hearing politicians say today. They're using the word people of color and racial justice, all these words that they're using to make us get this feeling that we're all in this together. You've been hearing that theme a lot since we've got this virus going on. We're all in this together, yet they keep telling us black people are not getting access to proper care, vaccines, if you believe in taking vaccines, and all this other stuff. So what is your thoughts? Should we do what other groups do and stop worrying about the government doing everything for us, or should we be more about, let's just focus on bringing our resources together? Because if we come together and unite as one around common beliefs, the politicians are going to come running to us. I used to see this in San Francisco all the time. They would run to the Chinese community and say, what can we do for you? Because the Chinese community was independently wealthy in terms of keeping the dollar within their own community and supporting and only hiring their own. You would never see I hate to say this, you would never see a black-owned restaurant in Chinatown. Mm-hmm. But you'll see Chinese restaurants in, let's say, for example, Harlem. Go figure. Go ahead, sister, if you would like to touch on any of that I said.
So to me, I think we have to kind of walk and chew gum at the same time. We absolutely should organize among ourselves. We absolutely should ensure that we're building our institutions that exist. But we should also understand that there's also a significant political agenda that's going on against our people. So significant that how many black men are in jail right now, the number it's a crazy number of our black men who are in jail right now. What do we do about them while we're trying to get our businesses together? Think about the education system that is completely just horrible. What are we going to do about the fact that we're putting our tax dollars to these people and they're miseducating our children? What do we do about that? So to me, it's basically organizing in such a way that you can meet your own needs, meaning you're not just getting in an organization and going to weekly meetings. No, you're trying to figure out, how do we overtake our local school system? And then you also have to figure out, how are we going to get our black men and women who are in prison for things that should never have happened? They should never have been put in that position in the first place. How are you going to organize to get that result? But I don't think that we should completely abandon politics. I think it's just reforming how we go about it. Understanding on a national level, absolutely, politics are very much something that we're not going to have the same voice in. Understanding first that we have to organize on a local level, and then from organizing on a local level, I feel like we can honestly put more demands on the things that are essential to us on a national level. There's not much on a national level, though, that I think of determinative of Black people, because even if you think about the federal prisons, the amount of inmates that are African in those prisons is nothing compared to those who are in state prisons.
Thank you for saying that, because Joe Biden sat up there on television talking about, I'm going to sign a bill for racial equality and racial justice as it relates to the prison system. As he was trying to find his pen, he thought it was in here. He thought it was in his pocket. Then he realized, oh, it's right up here. Some kind of senile stuff going on there. And I know for a fact, because of the kind of work that I do, that's BS. The majority of our people are in state prisons, Black women and Black men. I think 1/3 of that prison system is Black males in particular. So Joe Biden didn't do anything. Matter of fact, he didn't even give anybody on death row at San Quentin, and I've been there many times in my work, he didn't give anybody that's wrongfully on death row a stay of what do they call it? They exonerate them, right? Make them free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? And I talk about this. Yeah, because, well, I think, honestly, he did what Obama did. I don't remember, but everyone was going off about Obama. Oh, he equalized the disparity between crack and cocaine so that, now we're not going to have this horrible disparity. No, actually, he didn't. People were acting like he essentially allowed some people who were convicted of crack to get out. No, what he did is he increased the sentence for cocaine without lowering the sentence for crack, meaning it didn't have any effect. So these are things, I think what they do, honestly, is that they want to be able to say, hey, I did this, and without actually doing it. So because we live in such a social media age, because the media is very lazy, they'll go with that narrative. Oh, Joe Biden has a social justice agenda. That's what they've been saying, like, repeatedly inside of the news. Oh, it's a race equity agenda. completely ignoring the fact that it actually does nothing for a situation. They get to run away and say that he did something.
Right, right. That's a sound. That's the sound of life. That's the sound of Black life in development there. Okay.
Sure.
I don't care. I don't care about your son's sound in the background, because that's the sound of Black family.
For sure.
Okay? So that's the natural sound effect that's needed for the show. Oh, wow. See, I'm glad that we're on the same page about that, because I was thinking to myself, man, this is some BS that he's pushing. And see, all of that praising in South Carolina by Cloudburn, buck dancing, getting that man in, all these Black folks, they put him in, and as soon as he gets in there, you heard it. You heard the leaked videotape of Joe Biden telling them, I said what I said,
right,
and I'll do what I say I do when I want to do it. Now, y'all ends do what I say. Now, he didn't say it. You know, you get the gist. He was basically telling them, y'all better do what I say. I'll do what I can. And then he had the nerve to say that because the Hispanic or the Latino population is the fastest growing population, that we need to get with them because they're bigger than y'all. See how he was talking to us?
Yeah.
And he's got that wrong, because I did a video system on my channel where I looked at peer research review, and they said by 2065 that Black people in America may become a permanent minority, because it will be Asians that will be the leading population, and Latinos or Hispanics will be right below them, because you got to remember, Asians also comprise of what? East Indian as well. So, and then when I live in California, and guess who they're doing all the contracting from India into Silicon Valley in California? They're getting the East Indian engineers to come over and work, because they can pay them a cheaper price than they can pay us, right? Because we're Americans, we're going to demand a proper pay for what we do. So I'm glad you said that, but it's a serious problem, because on that video I said, my sister, that when these other groups come over and they create businesses and communities, and it's what they should do because it's what we should do, they're not going to go out of their way to hire us. They're not going to go out of their way to come over here and be our friend. They're coming over here to compete, to make money, to take care of their families, and to employ and support their people. If our people are not prepared in business to be entrepreneurs, and we're only going to be employees, we're going to be dependent on these groups to employ us. Who you think they're going to employ first, your Black self or someone of their own culture?
Yeah.
If they can speak the same language.
Right, right. I mean, well, first to go back to a point that you made about Joe Biden,
okay.
I do want to emphasize that we have to, I think something that we don't necessarily say enough is that this is honestly not new.
Okay.
So I read a book recently, if I can remember what it was called, Abyss Against Our Better Judgment, I believe is what it was called. And it broke down how President Harry Truman was basically Joe Biden. He was supposed to be a liberal Democrat, but really he was more conservative and not trying to do nothing. And to see how the Black community at that time was just pleading with this man, please, please, please do right by us. We don't want our people to vote for Republicans, please. It really, I think, messes with you to realize that we've been dealing with the same thing for that long, and I'm sure before then. So the question is, when are we going to hold our leaders, whoever was in that meeting, when are we going to hold their feet to the fire? That's who I really want to hold accountable. Joe Biden's going to do what Joe Biden does. He's a white man who is essentially in a position of the biggest position of white supremacy in the country. I don't expect anything from him. But when are we going to actually hold accountable every single person who was in that meeting, those who actually told us, hey, Black people, we want you to vote for Joe Biden, because if you vote for him, then he's going to do this, that, and the third for us. Well, guess what? He didn't do it, and he's not committing. So what are you going to say now? Are you going to call him out? Or are you going to keep coming to us every 4 years to vote for your guy? So I'm not even upset at him. I'm upset with those people who sat in that meeting and didn't come on and do a press conference and condemn him for speaking to them like they were children. Yeah, so that's what I'm really mad at.
Let me see. Let's name some of the usual suspects. We had Derek Johnson, who at one point I believe was the president of he's the president of the NAACP, right?
I'm assuming. I don't know who exactly was in there.
Yeah. Well, okay, Derek Johnson is the current president of the NAACP.
Okay.
The other man we know is Cedric Richmond, who was the leader of the Black Congressional, the caucus up there, the do nothing. And now he's become Joe Biden's go-to water boy, meaning he's a liaison. That's the best they could do for the man. Let me laugh. let me put my laugh on about this. Laughable. The best they could do. Okay? And then, greasy hairstyle Sharpton is in the house too. All right? And then Kamala Harris was up there. And we know what her record is as it relates to black men in California. Yeah. I'm not going to sit up here and act like she didn't do anything that did harm black males in California with her policies and what have you, in that horrible laboratory that a black man that was on death row could have been freed. Mm. There's even a young brother that's on Vice TV, has a YouTube channel, and I can't think of the brother's name. He tells his story about how he got railroaded, and Kamala Harris just threw him under the bus. But he'd been exonerated. He went to jail, and eventually it came out in the wash that that he didn't do it. Then you've got, I call her Beetlejuice up in Chicago, who denied the black woman who's a social worker when the police went into her house, rampaged the house, had her there naked, and when the sister was filing her suit, Laura Lightfoot tried to dismiss it until it really went viral and got serious because they were trying to edit the video of what happened to her. Then Lightfoot comes around and says, oh, now I realize how bad it was. See, these black so-called leaders, we gotta laugh at them. They're not worth a bag of McDonald's French fries, some of them. Okay? This is my thing. We don't need politicians. We need a black agenda. Just because you put a black person in a key position don't mean that they got us as a collective group in mind. They might just be worrying about themselves and their own family. You heard Clyde Burns sit up there and say, when they said to him on news originally, what are you expecting from Joe Biden? Well, I'm not expecting anything. I just want my family to be safe and healthy. And then he turned around later on and said he was disappointed because Joe Biden hadn't put enough black people in certain positions. Mm-hmm. Go figure.
But I do disagree with you that we don't need leaders, though, because what we need is to get rid of these bourgeoisie, Democrat-loving, the establishment-loving people, and we have to hold them accountable. If they're coming to our communities, we have to show up and say, you don't represent us, and be very clear on what we're standing for. But we absolutely need leaders. We need ones like the ones who were unwaveringly about the people. We would not be able to be organized unless we understood that some people are going to have to be the ones who are in that position to be making these tough calls. Right. People who are visionaries. Mm-hmm. And we have to, again, hold those people accountable, because what happens a lot of times is that we as a community, we allow people to manipulate our agenda for their own interests. Right. And that's where we really go wrong. But, right. Where would we be without Marcus Garvey? Where would we be without Malcolm X? These are people who were sincerely and completely dedicated to the liberation of our people.
But this is the difference, my dear sister, and let me correct myself. The difference is you just named black men and women who weren't politicians. Mm-hmm. They weren't. See, this is the thing. You can't serve two gods. The problem with black politicians is that they're serving two gods. Yeah. They're trying to somehow stay in favor with us so that they can stay in office. Then they got to play the game in Washington, D.C. Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and many others, they didn't have to play that game. because they weren't politicians. So when I say a black agenda, that means that if we unify under a black agenda and a black agenda only, then no matter what politician comes to us, black, white, and otherwise, if they don't have a black agenda, if we say to them, what is your black agenda, directly to us, and if they can't say that directly and do it and don't be going back and forth with all this, well, if we help everybody, we can lift all boats kind of crap, right? If they say that, we say, thank you, but no thank you, goodbye. Because if you go to, when you go to Asian community, Latino communities, the gay community, it's obvious to me that they're basing their politics on their agenda. And whoever doesn't have their agenda, they don't support them and they call them out.
Yeah. But that's why we need leaders who, yeah, I agree with you. The politician thing, to me, it's like you have to know where to put a politician. I don't like seeing a politician trying to stand inside of the Black liberation position the same way that I don't like seeing a celebrity. Because like you said, your allegiances, you know, you're benefiting from the system. You're not going to really call out Hollywood if Hollywood is paying your checks, you know. So I know where to put certain people, you know, and we have to know where to put the politicians. Their job and their only job is to be a tool for a possible tool. And we don't even necessarily have to use every single politician, but whenever it's necessary, we should use them. But I think, like you said, we have to, I mean, I think the gist of what I'm getting from you is that we have to organize among ourselves and figure out what it is that we want to demand. Right. And for that, I think we do need leaders, because if you look at what happened in, like you said, South Carolina, to me, those are completely Black people who don't have an agenda, don't have anyone that's articulating what's in their interest. And so it's you know, to me, it's just, we have to, and I blame us because we have to hold these people accountable. Right. Because stop allowing them to come in and out of our communities whenever it's convenient.
You've got homelessness at an all-time high in Los Angeles, California, with the Skid Row. You've got Black people living in the brown belt of this country where they've got fecal matter and all sort of things in their water systems. Oh, yeah. And I don't hear any of these folks that represent us in Washington that look like us saying anything about those issues. Yeah. Here we have Clyburn, who's from South Carolina, and you got Black folks in South Carolina in some of those areas that he represents that are not living very well. And that there's an old saying, you judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. Yeah. I don't know I don't want to take up all your time. I don't know how much more time you have with me, but I really want to center it back to your book. Let people know, because we don't want to tell them everything, because they need to buy the book. $13.99. The damn book. I've been putting it in the chat room. Buy the book. I don't want to. Every week we buy sandwiches, coffee, all sort of things from the store, and we give money to people who don't look like us. And here we have a young woman, family, sister here who's got a book. Go and buy the book.
Thank you.
Let people know what other incredible things that they could look forward to reading and learning and engaging with your book.
Probably the most, probably the part of the book when I was writing it, I enjoyed the most was there's a chapter on the African families in America, because a big part of it and what I advocate, as I said, we have to build among ourselves, is that I advocate that we understand that we are an African people living in America. And to understand that, you have to understand how much of our culture is reflected from Africa. I think a lot of us, we think that we got our culture from slavery. Slavery was a terroristic institution. It was not anything to celebrate about a white man controlling when you could eat, when you could sleep, having you work for so many hours until you were completely fatigued, where your children were, who you could marry. Like, there's nothing redeemable about the institution of slavery. Everything of value that we carry, the ability of us to survive, came from Africa. And that's something that I'm more honestly excited for people to read, is to really learn. And it's a very, you know, it's I feel like if anything, read even the people who I reference in the chapter, because I obviously didn't go in depth. It was only one chapter. But you really get to realize that we are an African people. And until we get okay with identifying ourselves as that, then I think that we're going to allow ourselves to fall into these notions that we want to be American, just American, and not identify who we really are. Understand that the reason why Native Americans, I didn't get to say this actually, Native Americans, while they are disproportionately in the foster care system, during the Red Power movement, as opposed to the Black Power movement, the Red Power movement, they were able to organize around the issue of child welfare. And because of that, there's a law called the Indian Child Welfare Act that specifically says that you are not allowed to take a Native American child from their parent without notifying the tribe. And you have to make every effort to put Native American children, if you're taking them into foster care, put them with a Native American foster family. Now, does the system implement that fully? No. There's a lot of cases where they're trying to resist that, and they're actually, there's a sentiment that they might be trying to repeal the law. But the point is, they were able to organize around this specific issue. And the reason why they were is because during the Red Power movement, there was a big push for culture. They said, we are not of this culture. We are Native. They have different tribes. I don't, want to say they're Native American people, but, they're indigenous people. They have an indigenous culture. So without us embracing our culture and realizing that does make us unique, our African heritage, our experience is completely something that we cannot abandon. And it's honestly what has allowed us to survive. Without us coming to that full realization, then I don't think we will be able to organize to protect our children and to restore what was stolen from us.
Okay, can you, because I know there's been a lot going on, and I know people have their various views about the continent of Africa, about being Pan-African. You got the whole ADOS movement. And I know there's people that feel like that there's like a divide and conquer type of thing. And when people begin to classify themselves into different groups over here and over there. I want to say peace to the BAIO out there. I'm a member of, and the brothers and sisters that are a part of that. But I got to ask the honest question, why is it important for us as Black people in America to embrace being Pan-African? Why is that important? Some would say that Africa, the continent, is the next frontier. It is the frontier, that it's a young country, young people, all the resources. If Africa was to disappear tomorrow, we would all be living like the Flintstones right now. Okay, folks? Where you think all your minerals, your coltan, your oil, your diamonds, where do you think all the natural resources are coming from that are empowering us to be able to broadcast right now? Without what's in the soil in Africa, the continent,
that's true.
We wouldn't be broadcasting right now. That's the vibranium. For those of you that's into all the Black Panther stuff, that's the vibranium right there. So, can you make the compelling statement for why we as Black people in America shouldn't sleep on the idea of identifying with the continent in one way or another? And we know that there are Black people in America that feel like, well, are the African brothers and sisters identifying with us? They want to create this a divide and conquer, right? Now, I personally believe that America does owe Black people reparations for the unique experience that we had here in this country called America, North America. However, I, at the same time, would not interfere with brothers and sisters in South Africa, for example, who want their land back, or for brothers and sisters in the Caribbean that want some reparations from what the British has done to them. I would never interfere and tell people in those countries that they shouldn't be asking for a debt that's due them from the governments that oppress them. So when I look at a movement like ADOS or foundational, I don't look at it personally as I want to separate myself from brothers and sisters in the diaspora of the world, but I'm simply saying there's something that happened here in this continent. I mean, this country called America, this part of the world, because we are a unified state, so we think we are, that is due us here. Me fighting and defining myself in that way doesn't negate my love and my respect for brothers and sisters in the continent. What is your opinion on that? I'm trying to be as respectful as I can because I know there's been people saying that there's division, that ADOS is creating this division between brothers and sisters in Africa and America, and everybody's going in their own little, they're doing what we're doing tribalism. And tribalism is one example of how Africa as a continent, how Europeans were one way they were able to control it, because tribalism groups people and makes people separate themselves to a degree. What do you agree or disagree, or what do you think, sister? The floor is yours.
All right. So, okay. First, me personally, I've never encountered a continental African who's ever said that we want reparations for your slavery. I've never encountered that. Okay. So a lot of the narrative behind ADOS, I never understood why there was such this need to push for a distinction for reparations, where I've never heard a call from Caribbeans or from continental Africans. I've never heard a call that we want slavery reparations. Now, if we're talking about reparations for discrimination in general, then yes, you have to also keep in mind that a lot of them have also suffered. So if you lived in California, if anyone's ever gone like to the East Coast, particularly like New York City, yes, there's a lot of people, you see them Black, they've lived for inside of our country for a long time. They've had the same experience. They've faced the same discrimination, and you wouldn't know that they were Caribbean. You wouldn't know that they were continental African. You wouldn't even know. So if we're talking about every single abuse that has been done to African people by the United States government, that we have to ignore the plight that has been suffered by people equally in certain ways, whether it's housing segregation, because there's a lot of things that happened after slavery. Obviously, you had Jim Crow. Those are things that were unique to people who are coming out of the enslavement experience in America. But you had other things, housing segregation. You had the war on drugs. I think we're owed reparations for that. I think we're owed reparations for the crack epidemic. I think we're owed reparations for Flint, Michigan. I'm not even of the illusion that things stopped at a certain time and we can say, okay, this is where we have to start doing, where you have to go back and start paying us. Now, let me go back and say,
yes,
me personally, when it comes to reparations, that's not something I push for too much, to be honest with you. The reason is because we don't even have the institutions to where if we were given reparations, we'd be able to keep that money in our communities. It's like we haven't even stopped the bleeding. We're continually inside of a system of exploitation. Look at the prison industrial complex. Look at everything that's happening as far as education. Look at the whole system that takes and takes and takes from us. I am of no illusion that that system would not manipulate it in such a way that it does not lose out on a cent. So that's why one thing I don't talk about the issue too much, not because I don't think it's the right thing. Obviously, it's the right thing to give reparations to all of us for our experiences. But I am very much aware that the capitalist system will not willingly ever, and if you say, well, how do I know this? I know this based off of history. Is not going to do anything that is a detriment to itself. And capitalism is a detriment to us. I don't know if you all know that, but it is. The reason why we were enslaved was because of capitalism. So understand that the system is not going to self-destruct. If it's going to give you any type of reparation, it's going to be very surface level. I promise you, it will not be what would actually change our situation. And you know the reason why is because we're begging, we're asking. We're not in a position to demand. So going to the Pan-Africanist viewpoint, it's very funny that we don't keep in mind that the reparations that were given, so obviously in World War II, they gave reparations to the Japanese, right? We need something way more significant because we had a way more significant experience, right? The reparations that were given to the Jews were given because a war was won. That war was won with America. It was won with England. It was won with France, Russia, basically pan-Europeanism. Yeah. All these countries were able to gang up on Germany and say, you have to pay, first of all, you have to pay us back a whole bunch. And you have to pay what you did to the Jews. You have to pay them back significantly. I think they just now might have paid off that debt, honestly. So understand that unless you're in a position of power, these reparations that you're asking for are not going to be poised to actually change your situation. And we do not have power as a small minority in America. I'm sorry to tell you, but we do have power as a people, because you know who else could also say to well, first of all, we're not just owed reparations from the United States. We have to keep in mind, I believe our enslavement under the US was only 150 years. And prior to that, it was England. So are we going to just target America? England also benefited from our enslavement.
Let me say this. I think the position that people of the ADOS movement, their position is that something uniquely happened to Black people that were born in this soil, that come out of the plantation system, Black people that were doing sharecropping, Black people that were impacted by what we know as Jim Crow, Black people who specifically were targeted in this hemisphere, and that America owes us that debt to be paid. And then I think there are some that would make the argument, my sister, that, well, if you give Black people if we get these reparations, that the reparations would be just enough that we need to help build our institutions. Because when you look at other cultures, you look at American society, Black people, we're at the bottom when it comes to wealth, right? And if you look at cultures that have wealth, well, with that wealth, they're able to build schools. They're able to do so much more. And we already know that when people have wealth, crime goes down. When you look at a place like Detroit, when the automotive industry was really popping and Black people were migrating up north, and I don't have to give you a history lesson, you know this, Black people were doing really well in Detroit and places like that, buying their homes, sending their kids to school within the segregation, within the racism that was going on, right? But they had economics, they had employment. Once that all got destroyed, and you look at all your cannery cities, the Clevelands, the Detroits, all the industrial cities, the crime went up because there were no jobs, there were no opportunity, and there was no wealth to be built. So now we had crime going up in those communities that we would deem to be Black communities where there was high crime. So it's already proven that lack of opportunity, lack of economic development, you're going to have crime. So could someone make the argument that if we were to get this influx of reparations, that could help solve, you're not going to solve people's mental issues or their lack of how to manage money, but if we had that money, we could create the institutions to educate our people on money management, to build schools and improve our schools, to educate our own kids, right? To be more independent. We wouldn't need to depend on the government to turn our power on, because we could use that money to create our own power companies and things of that nature. That's the argument that one could make to what you're saying, my dear sister. So,
and what I'm trying to emphasize is that if we're going to get, first of all, they could easily cut us all a check for $5,000 and say, hey, we're done. And they would say, we gave you reparations. Like, I don't even get what makes us think that by not by saying, hey, we have the global international push, we're going to force this issue. And that's what we have to talk about. Power doesn't come from, I seen someone saying in the chat, essentially the way that they say it, well, we're just not going to vote for you. Well, unfortunately, enough of your people did vote for them, regardless of all of you who didn't vote. But even so, you're not forcing the issue. So you have to understand how reparations have happened at a significant level like we need. We don't just need a quick check. We need something that would actually completely reverse our current environment, our whole situation. That's not going to come from asking and asking. It's just not. And this is going from, I'm not coming out of this out of nothing. There's 400 years of experience of this. Black people were promised reparations before. That's the other thing we don't understand. You know what happened? Well, the white people who said, oh, we don't like them, we don't want them to have economic liberation, they came in and took over the government, and none of those reparations happened. Let's not act like this is not the first time that this issue was on the table. This has been a struggle since slavery. What I'm trying to emphasize is that Pan-Africanism, what Pan-Africanism says is that we all are suffering a similar experience. Nothing in Pan-Africanism says that Africans from the continent should be given reparations for slavery, or Africans from the Caribbean should be given reparations for slavery. It's saying that we've all suffered a similar situation. Right. Understanding that we're all politically similarly positioned, then the intelligent thing to do would be to understand that the same way that all the European powers came together to enforce slavery, it wasn't just America that did the transatlantic slave trade. They had Germany, they had England, they had France, they had Portugal, they had Belgium. Right. The same way that they all came together on one accord, we have to all come together on one accord.
Right. No, I totally agree with that part of it, but I think my point where I was going is that if my brothers and sisters in the continent or in Caribbean or anywhere in the diaspora of the world they have a grievance or an issue to a group of people where they are that did some oppression, and they want monetary value given to them, they want money given to them, I, as a black man in America, in my opinion, I would have no business or right to interfere in their issue and say to them, hey, you shouldn't be asking for that. You know you ain't never going to get anything from them. That's how I see it. It doesn't mean that you can't have unity, but we all have experiences where we live in our soil that we have to still address, even though we want to be unified, we want to be global in our thinking, because black people in America, we do need to be more global in our thinking and not just be in a village here in America in our thinking. But I do think you have to take care of where you are, just like they tell you all government is local first before it's national. You got to get involved in what's happening local to make change if that's what you believe in. So I totally agree that we need to have more unity. And the only way we can have more unity is that people in the diaspora of the world, they need to know more about our history, and we need to know more about their history.
But again, I've never heard, I mean, that's why I'm always confused. I've just never heard, and maybe I'm not in those conversations, I've never heard a push from continental Africans, stop fighting for slavery reparations. Like, I've never heard that. And that's why
I'm using it as an example.
No, I'm saying like to the movement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So to the movement, you know, I've never heard like something that made me think that, hey, they're trying to interfere with the black struggle in America. But to your point, yes, we have to. Well, the point I'm basically trying to drive home is that, as you said, you know, you're not against things, you know, movements in South Africa. But I think the thing that we have to understand is it really is the same movement. The exact same, because there's a reason why there's never been an example of any African who's been given reparations for the things that were done to us under colonialism. Like none of us. How do we explain that if we're all in different struggles? To me, the only possible way is that there's a global system going on that has an incentive to ensure that none of us prevail on that claim, because if any of us prevail on that claim, then guess who else is going to be?
There has to be a loser.
Yeah.
And we know who the loser would be. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I just think that, like this is what I heard, and I want to be respectful. I don't know how much, if any little, of history brothers and sisters in the continent are being taught about our struggle here in America, and we obviously know that we're not getting enough information about their struggle. And when you cut off communication, you cut off the heartbeat of that drum beat. Then it creates dissension, it creates misinformation, and all these other things that people, oh, this is how they think about us. Oh, because I think in some of the countries in the continent of Africa, don't you still have a strong presence, or a presence? How can I say? Let me ask this question as plain as I can. Because I've heard people say, are they getting information about black people in America and our history, as we, at the same time, may not be getting enough history about what they went through? Do you think there's a disconnect there within what they're learning in their schools and what we learn in our schools about each other?
Yes, absolutely. And it, like you said, it goes both ways. And by the way, you're going to hear a lot of ignorant things coming from continental Africans about Africans in America, and the same way that you're going to hear a lot of things from us going towards them. And all of this has been manufactured, because one thing that we should understand about enslavement is that the first thing that they said, you can't practice your culture, you can't speak your languages, you can't identify yourself as being from somewhere, because we need the easiest way possible to conquer you. So yes, there's really a miseducation campaign has always been. Understand that Africa is still colonized, even though we might see these African leaders, African governments, you might see all African parliament. These people are still colonized. They're still under the system of white supremacy. Neo-colonialism is worse than colonialism, because at least under colonialism, this is what Kwame Nkrumah said, at least under colonialism, we knew what it was. You could see this white man telling the black man what to do. But in neo-colonialism, we see a blackface. We don't see these businessmen and these governments that are having secret conversations behind the scenes. So there's very much still in place the white supremacist system in Africa that wants to keep us separate. And I think a lot of ignorance gets shared. And the colonial education is funny. They don't even tell about their own history. That's the other funny thing. Like, you can talk to a lot of continental Africans. What'd you learn about Thomas Sankara? What'd you learn about Kwame Nkrumah? A lot of them have not.
So if you keep us, and let me say shout out to Tiffany Jackson, Rob Allbanks, Brother Jamal, HMIC in the house, Ray Alexander, DOD, Finley Rivers Kennels in the house, Clue Kendrick is in the house. The guy from Texas, Tiffany Jackson again, Fly Seas is in the house, Clue, Back to the Basics. We got Monster Sports and Entertainment. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming in and supporting the channel today. We got Beverly Pamela is in the house. Thank you for being here as well. Good to see you. Let me see. We got Kay Hoggins. Hey, thank you for being here. I'm bad with names. We've got the Black Cyber Network that's been in the house today pretty much, and Raw B has been in here. They've been a fixture all day. Yolanda is in here too. I need to find her. We got Wisdom is in the house. Brother Wisdom, who says he's got to buy your book. He loves what you're saying.
Thank you.
We got this brother, Juma B, is in the house. Thank you for being here, brother. Umojo, right? Umojo B, right? Am I saying that right? Umojo B. If I got that right, I hope I got that right. That brother's been waiting to hear this discussion today from you, and it's fantastic. And thank you, everybody who's come in. Oh, Reliable. Tanya is in the house. Thank you for being here. And I don't want to take up all your time, but is there anything before we come to the conclusion that you really want to really stress strongly, either about your book or about Pan-Africanism, the things that you've experienced personally, anything that you want to really drive home?
I think definitely in keeping with the book, but also with what I've been doing on my channel and my organization, We Charge Colonialism, is just emphasizing to our people that we really have to be organized. We have to be in organizations. We have to be active in those organizations. And as Kwame Ture said, if you're in an organization, you feel like it's not doing the right thing, you need to start an organization. Understand, going back to the reparations issue briefly, that a big problem with the reparations thing is that, like you said, the idea is that we're going to start building up our communities if we actually were to get reparations. But if we're not organized, who do you think is going to build our communities?
You're right
it's
about
going to be
that.
Different people getting contracts outside of the community to come into our community and, supposedly do stuff for us. So, that's why I said I'm not big on pushing it until I see an organizational structure among our people, to where if we were able to get that it wouldn't just leave out of our communities. But we're not going to get that unless we're organized. So that's the push of the book. It's specifically talking about the child welfare system, about the fact that we have to organize in our communities to service our people, to ensure that we have mutual aid organizations that can tend to our needs instead of relying on these white social welfare institutions. That is really the big takeaway that I want everyone to get.
Okay, let me add this too, if you don't mind me adding this. I'm saying again, my brother Q Butter out there in New York, he has a school. This is very important to the building of our community. where is the area where young black males and young black ladies are first attacked? Where at? In school.
Yeah.
That's where when you talk about the pipeline from school to prison starts, it starts in school where they criminalize young black males and young black ladies. They start off by calling us hyperactive. They put you in special education classes. They isolate you from classes that you need to be taking, right? They call the Truman, they put they call the security on you. They do all these things to start the criminalization. And unfortunately, and I got to be honest here because it's about telling the truth.
Tell the truth.
Telling the truth here.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. A lot of the teachers in our public schools and schools in general do tend to be white females. That is where the first attack on black males in particular starts, with the white female teacher who, like I said, who deems the black male as combative and out of control. What are your thoughts about that as we get to conclusion here as it relates to your book?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I've studied previously, is the miseducation of black children and the fact that when you're only exposed to white women as being the authoritative figure inside of your lives, that does have a detrimental effect on children. Obviously, you named the school to prison pipeline. We also know what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, children being put in special ed at a disproportionate rate. All of these things come into play whenever you are dependent on people outside of your community to do for yourself. On the education thing, though, everyone, if you want to look deeper into the issue, there was have you ever heard of the Brownsville Community School Experiment?
I may have read about it and probably.
It's not very much talked about.
I think I've lost the knowledge of it now. So educate the public as I put you front and center on the screen again.
So it was actually a movement. This is during the Black Power movement inside of Brownsville, which is a community, my understanding, I don't know if it's in New York City, but around New York City. And it was for the parents and the teachers, black teachers. They said, we want to have control over our schools. So they actually were able to have a community experiment where they were actually able to have the teachers be black, have the parents agree with it, and the children were being educated. They're being taught about Africa. They're being taught things like that. What happened was the teachers unions completely came in and derailed. They were called anti-Semitic for wanting to organize among themselves. It was really a horrible situation, but where we saw that our people were willing to organize, but it was completely derailed, and it's never been started up again. So that's something to also consider when we're talking about politics. Like you said, local politics do become very important in that struggle. And if you're trying to exercise self-determination, that is control over your own communities, you really do need to have a strong force, but first you have to be organized, and that's why I always say organized.
Okay, definitely. I don't want to sound silly here. Is this actually your first book that you have endeavored in?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to put your book together and present it as you have?
Probably 2.5 years if you count the research component. I actually, so I did a lot of the research when I was pregnant. By the time I had the baby, I started writing, and so that was gonna make it go longer.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a struggle to get done, honestly.
Everybody, again, I'm gonna put her link in the chat room again. I need everybody to buy the book. Let's stop playing around. Let's buy the book. We have a black woman here who is giving you knowledge of self. She's breaking it down, and she has a book. It's entitled Fostering False Identity, the Child Welfare System Designed of the Social Control of the Black Family. It's in paperback, and I'm going to put the link again in the chat room. It's also in the description of this video today, so you can come back to my channel page into this video, go back to this video, and you can definitely click the link to get to her book on Amazon. And you can also subscribe to her channel. I have that in the description of the video. And I need everybody with all delivered speed to put this in your community tab and put this in your Facebook, all your social media. Now, I'm live right now on my Facebook page with this. So I'm live on Periscope right now broadcasting. We're in 3 different places here. But I'm going to push and promote this video because this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. So I need people to definitely support what the sister is doing here because it is dynamic. Okay. Let me just say this. Because I could talk forever with you. And I have to have you. And this is what I'm going to do. Let's not make a few years go by. And I gotta say this. I should have reached out to you myself a long time ago. But let's not let a lot of years go by before we do something like this again.
For sure.
Okay, so I'm going to reach out to you again. And what I would love to do is to put together a dynamic panel with you and a few other folks I know that are on the same level to have further discussion like this. But we're going to do this again sometime soon. But I want you to, with the time that we have left, what do you want everybody to leave with today in the way they look at the whole area, the whole issue around Pan-African, being Pan-African? What do you want people to leave with? And my brother out there, my brother Keedy out there, he's going to love this video. This is brother, I got to connect you with brother Keedy.
For sure, yeah.
He has a YouTube channel and he goes to Africa. They know him over there. Like the brother's been going over there for years. He has a channel that gets into really deep conversation around these issues. He has made inroads over there with people. I got to connect him with you.
Yes, please.
This brother he's incredible. He writes books like you. He breaks down science. A brother is deep and he's a heavy into Pan-African philosophy. So I'm going to connect him with you. But what do you want people to leave here with as we conclude?
As far as the necessity to join in the Pan-Africanist struggle, I would just say to my people, understand that there's always been a deliberate effort from not just this government, but the European governments as well to derail any Pan-Africanist movement. And we know anytime that the government deems something a danger to itself, that means that it actually has the potential to change our situation, could potentially liberate us from being the most exploited people inside of this world. So clearly they understand the value of Pan-Africanism. So it's time for us to understand the value of Pan-Africanism. Understand when Marcus Garvey, he went to every single place where African people were. And he said, why is it that every single place where I go, we're always the poorest, we're always in the worst conditions, we're always the most destabilized? And then that's when he really started to champion the idea that we have to unite. He's not the first person to say this, but he certainly is someone who really woke us up to the fact that we're all facing a common struggle. So that would be my takeaway on this subject.
Okay. And I would say this too, like you said, that we truly can't get where we need to be if we're fractured and we don't have unity. I totally agree with that. We've got to unify under what is in the best interest of that child in your household crying. I have a child myself. That's how I look at it. You have a young one in there, a young king, and we have to be in the best interest. Everything that we do will benefit your young king. Because if we're doing what we're supposed to do, he's going to grow up with a foundation built for him. And it's obvious to me you're building that foundation right now. So, sister, thank you for coming on over. I'm going to purchase your book as soon as I get off of here. I got my cell phone. I got Amazon on my phone. I'm going to click and purchase it myself.
Thank you so much.
And it looks like, yeah, everybody, let me give her a clap and everybody a clap in the chat room because this has been a great discussion. Great. And let me get that in there right now. Yes.
Tell the truth.
All right.
Tell the truth.
It's been a great. I'm glad you came on board
I
today.
know, this has been fun. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We're going to do it again. I'm going to purchase your book. And it looks like people in the chat room have said that they have purchased as well.
Thank you
and
so
I
much.
I put the link in there several times. I'm going to put it in there again. So you take care. Have a great rest of your evening. Take care of that young king that you got in there crying in the background. I think he was crying in the background because he's hearing truth.
Tell the truth.
So you take care of yourself. Okay?
Thank you. You too. Good night.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Good night. So there it is, everybody. There is. I've been wearing these janky glasses, and I've got I'm waiting, ladies and gentlemen, to all the way to June to get my appointment to June. I'm going to shop around and see if I can get another eye doctor that can see me sooner than that. And this is because of the virus that they got to take precautions. So they're backed up, and I'm wearing these goofy glasses, my contacts. I got to get more contacts. So, you got to excuse me with the goofy makeshift glasses. These were old glasses that I found because all my other stuff is gone. And I actually see better with contacts. But I want to thank the Afrikan Esquire again. Let me give her another clap again. And this is what I want to do here. Let me shout everybody out that's in the chat room that's been supporting the channel today. So let me see. We got DOD came in and supported the channel today. We got my main man, Yapo. Yapo, I got to get you on the channel so we can have our one-to-one discussion, brother. Brother Yapo. We've got RY in the house. We got the Black Cyber Network. We got my man, that guy from Texas. That guy from Texas, how are you doing? It's horrible what happened in Dallas, what's happening in Texas and Houston. It's horrible. But it also shows me that Texas is a state that's been trying to be independent from the union. But what we're seeing is that the not having regulations is really hurt the state. They tried to blame it on green energy, but the fact of the matter is gas, it's coal and nuclear. It's the independent power plants that failed y'all in Texas. They failed you. People freezing. You got a cruise getting on a plane trying to go to Cancun, lying, talking about, well, I was just getting ready to come back anyway. You got a big old bag. And he got a big old bag. These politicians are no good. I'm sorry. They're dirty. Wisdom. My man Wisdom says, I will buy it. He's going to buy the book. And we got Tiffany Jackson. Unify or perish is what she says. Yes, unify or perish. Peace to you. We got Back to the Basics. Let me say peace to Clue, who's been rocking it in there. Yeah, I like Haps. I'm on Haps as well. I'm probably going to do a broadcast later on tonight on Haps to talk about this issue in Texas and all the nonsense that's going on out there. I feel bad for the people that's out there freezing. And any of you in the chat room right now that's from Texas, let me know what's going on. It's crazy. Let's see. We got Ray Alexander. Peace to you. This is my benefactor, Jay Sean. He's a behind-the-scenes producer of the program. This brother supports me every step of the way. I got him front and center. He says their policies killed people. Exactly, Jay Sean. Exactly. So, and I got to get over to your channel too, Jay Sean. I keep forgetting you've got a YouTube channel, but you know how YouTube is. They don't give you all of your notifications. I know for a fact that people didn't get all my notifications today, but I appreciate the folks that did show up today. Raw B, peace to you. Raw B, I did get your email, and I want to say to you that I apologize that we didn't do it. I was going to call you, or I was going to email you back to say, let's do Monday of last week. So I want to apologize. I have not forgotten. Maybe we should do something on Monday. I don't know. Maybe Monday we could do something. I'm supposed to bring on the radical sister tomorrow around this similar time. And I got to see, because I got some things going on. I may have to get in contact with the radical sister, and I may or may not have to postpone that live stream into maybe next week. I got to see, because I got some things happening on Sunday that may interfere with it. But if it does not, I will be on with Radical Sister tomorrow, Sunday. So I've got to contact her today and let her know what the deal is, because I'm supposed to broadcast live with the Radical Sister tomorrow, which will give you another great bonus of content on this channel. After hearing from this sister, you're going to hear from another dynamic sister tomorrow. And the man from Texas says, I made it through, God willing, while Ted Cruz was on vacation. Yeah, Ted Cruz is a piece of garbage. And then we got Original Hebrew saying, back to the basics, respect to you. And I want to say, Clue in a raw B, you've been, and everybody in the chat room, I want to say thank you for holding it down by putting the sister's link to her book, her channel. I want to thank you for holding it down. Now, if you are new to the channel, go on my page and scroll down and subscribe to my podcast channel, my second channel, the Information Man Speaks Podcast. And just subscribe. You can scroll down this page of my channel and you'll see the icon for my second channel. Go over there immediately and subscribe to my podcast. I need y'all to check out the video that I did about McDonald's, the lawsuit from Brother Herb Williams, and the nonsense that McDonald's has been doing to black franchisees. People who own black franchises are being mistreated by McDonald's. This whole thing about them portraying themselves as being community-based, they're for black people, they put us on commercials. It's laughable. It's laughable, folks. It is completely laughable, and I want y'all to check that out if you have not. Once again, share this in your social media. Raw B in the house, second channel. Thank you. Once again, Raw B. Everybody who's a mod in there is doing great things. We got my man, the house in Austin, Texas was 22 Celsius for 3 days. Oh my God. Mr. Pirate Brain. Mr. Pirate Brain says his house was 22 Celsius. Oh my God. We got my man Marlo's music channel who's come in. Oh man, Marlo, you looking good on that picture, man. You got the suit. You got the piano there. You're looking, what's the word on YouTube right now? You're looking high value. On his picture. I think I'm going to do a video one day. I'm going to go live one day. I'm going to put a suit on too so that I can look high value. Man, Marlo's music channel, check him out, support his channel. Brother's got a new avatar where he's got a suit on looking high value. Ted Cruz is he's a joke. He's sitting up there lying to Fox News talking about, well, you know, I was just going to stay for the weekend and do some work. No, he got busted. He got made fun of, and he got back on the plane and flew 2 hours back to Texas because he knew it looked bad. I think him going on a vacation with his family when this is happening in Texas is the end of his political career. I think the people in Texas are going to vote him out of the Senate. His career is finished as we know it. I would not be surprised if they replace him with someone else. Ted Cruz getting on a plane with a big old bag in the airport, lying, talking about, I was going to come on back. No, he was planning to kick back. He wanted to get the hell out of town so he could be somewhere where it was warm. But see, this is the thing. When you're a regular citizen, you can do that. But when you are a politician who's supposed to represent the people, that's a bad look. That's why I don't like politicians. All right, Raw B is in the house doing it strong. Yeah, Marlo Music Channel. Brother got your suit on, got the bow tie, looking very high value. Rob Albing says the government does not have a heart. And Back to the Basics is saying that Ted Cruz is trash. Yeah, he is for what he did. And we got Chaka is in the house. Where is we got thank you for coming over. We got King Kaganda. Thank you for coming in and hey, look, again, share this video in all your social media. Appreciate you coming over. And man, I'm having a good time today. This has been a great interview. Did you all enjoy the interview? And let me give, once again, a clap to everybody out there who super chatted me, to everyone out there that came into the chat room, supporting the channel, sharing the channel out, and all of you out there, thank you for giving me the support today. Now, as you know, I don't do a lot of drama on this channel, so I'm not going to get 200 and 300 and 500 people watching because I'm not doing drama. I'm doing content that you can learn from. We're having intelligent discussion. We're having things that empower our people and get us to solutions. That's what I do over here. So when you come to this channel, keep that in mind. You're going to learn something. You're going to be inspired. I'm going to learn from you. You're going to learn from me. You're going to learn from a guest that I bring on. We're going to learn from history. We're going to try to figure this all out together, and we're going to try to come together in unity. None of this bickering back and forth. None of this fighting each other. We don't need that. I don't want to sound preachy, but it's just the truth. It's not gonna get us where we want to get as a people if we're battling with each other. And this is no hating on people who have different types of content on their channel where they do, they do things where it's kind of fiery on their channel like that. I'm not hating on them. I'm just saying on my channel, you're gonna get stuff. You're gonna get information that you can learn from, and you're gonna be inspired. And it doesn't mean that I'm gonna get 1,000 people over here. And I recognize that, because when you do content like this, it's gonna be a lonely road. It's gonna be a very narrow road that many people are not traveling. But that's okay, because I don't need hundreds of people. I just need the people who are really 100% down with the message that we're putting out on this channel, and that are definitely invested in this type of content and what we're talking about. On this channel, I'm gonna bring you people of different views. So even if you didn't agree with some of the things that Sister Afrikan Esquire said as it relates to ADOS, I don't have a problem with that, because I bring different point of views on this channel all the time. With that said, I still believe, as a black man in America, that America still owes us a debt. And there is a unique group of people in this country who have lineage to this soil, who are that the debt is owed to us. It doesn't mean that we're begging. It is a debt that's owed to us. Now, they're coming up with the HR 40 bill, which I meant to ask her opinion about that. And I'm saying to you, it's a nothing burger. We don't need a study. We already know what happened to us in history. They didn't go through all of this jumps and hoops for other groups that they gave money to. And reparations isn't just about a check too. Reparations is about certain other things like this. I'm going to say this again. Black people in America should be exempt from all taxes. Black men should be exempt from all military service, because we've already given enough blood to this country, from the Revolutionary War to Vietnam to the Korean War to World War I to World War II to the Ruta to the Tuta. We've already given enough blood to this country, so we should be exempt from all military service, from taxes. We shouldn't have to pay any taxes. So when you get paid on your job, you should get the full net of your payment. You should get all of it. We should be exempt from those sort of things, and we should be given annual payments or something. And then we could take that money to build businesses, build community, all these different. That's just my opinion about it. That's just my opinion. And I know that my brother Clue had said earlier that if we just come together and unify, we can build our own communities without reparations. Guess what, my brother Clue? All due respect to you, to my dear brother, I think that we should unify and build our communities. And at the same time, it does not negate the fact that America owes us a debt. So while we're doing that, I'm not letting them off the hook. They still owe us a debt. And I understand you got to deal with politicians. You got to go through politicians. You got to play the game. But it's a game that I still feel that we deserve it. And we got my man DOD, who says he agrees with what I'm saying. And I appreciate you for that, brother. Okay, now Clue says abolishing income tax altogether. Now, let me see. I'm thinking about dropping a link in the chat room. I don't want to have a long discussion, but I will have a discussion for a short period of time with someone, just a short period of time, because I'm going to end this broadcast. So if Clue, whoever would like to come upstairs and just give your opinion on the video today, the broadcast, podcast, whatever we want to call it, the great conversation with the Afrikan Esquire in her book. Once again, I'm going to tell you again, everybody, get the book. It's called Fostering False Identity, the Child Welfare System Design of the Social Control of Black Family. It's on paperback. You can get it. It's $13.99 on paperback, and it's $1.98 after credit on Kindle. But I'm telling you to buy it on paperback. Give the sister $13.99. Give her a little bit more change in the pocketbook there. Abolish income tax altogether. Yes, we shouldn't have to pay income tax or any kind of tax. That's a way that they can pay it forward to us, because think about how much more money you would be bringing home in your check if you didn't have to have the government take money from the federal and from the local government taking money out of your check. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that black people are 14% of the population. Believe it or not, they're going to be hurting America going to see some problems in there. They're going to see some problems when they lose that tax money. However, we're going to end up giving it back to them anyway, because we're going to still do what? Black people are some of the biggest consumers. We're going to still go out and buy goods and services. So even if they give us all that money, America's still going to benefit, because we're going to buy cars, we're going to buy houses. We're going to do things that will stimulate the economy with that money. With any money we get, whether it be annually, whatever, it's going to happen. Now, back to the basics. Before you start talking, get that sound together. Get your sound together. Get yourself settled where you're sitting at, so that the sound comes out nice and crispy. And let's go ahead and hear what Back to the Basics is saying. Uh-oh, she dropped off the panel. So hopefully she'll come back on in before I end this. Okay, let me see what people are saying in the chat room before I end this. We got Jimmy here. He says, well, you have a right to your opinion. America does owe Black Americans a debt, but blacks in America is not really unique to blacks in other parts of the world. I have to disagree with you. We do have a unique circumstances here in America. We have a very unique black people in America. We are very unique in our circumstances in this, because we built this damn country. We make it possible for people who come from other countries to benefit from things that we built. Figuratively and literally, not to mention the laws that we were able to pass through our civil rights movement that other groups that come over here benefit from. Oh, yes, we are unique. Where you think America gets its culture from, music, art, everything about America is black people. And here we go. Back to the basics. Is your sound together? Let's get it together.
Okay, I'm being just as still as I possibly can. So how's my sound?
Go ahead. Go. You sound like a radio show. Now go ahead.
Okay, I didn't even hear the question because
No. I mean, you've heard the program today, my dear sister.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard some of what I've had to say. You're hearing what people are saying in the chat room. What's your opinion about the program today? Afrikan Esquire is fantastic, right?
Oh, I agree. I couldn't imagine the research that went into writing the book, let alone writing it. So.
Right. And we might have some philosophical differences as it relates to reparations, and that's okay. We can have philosophical differences, but it still doesn't change the fact that a debt is owed. And I don't think we should stop fighting, whether it be our generation or the next generation, and going forward. We should not stop. But it doesn't mean that we still can't unify with people within our group who are on the same page with us. This is how I see it. Back to the basics. If people in the diaspora of the world are not willing to be on the same page with us, and we're not willing to work with them, then of course you can't go anywhere with that. But I'm willing to work with people who are willing to work with me of my own likeness when it comes to these issues. If they're on the same page with me, simple as that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I do believe that we should come together, but the reality is that not everybody's going to, get on code. Not everybody is going to get on code. So
no, we're not, because I think the reason why we're not going to get on code is because it's just like YouTube. We love it, even if we complain about how they don't get our notifications out, how they marginalize our channels and things of that nature, but we love it. We still love it because of all the bells and whistles that it has. We still love it. Back to the basics. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah, but I'm definitely going to get her book.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna purchase her book right after I get off of here. It's only $13.99. You can get it on Kindle a little bit cheaper if you got Kindle, but I think I'm gonna get Assisted a full $13.99. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I might do both. I like to do I like to have my stuff on digits, and then also I like to have a physical copy. So
right, I like the physical copy too, because it's just something about reading and holding a book in your hand that's totally different from electronic copy. I may do that too, get electronic copy as well as a backup. But either way, I'm gonna read her book, check it out, absorb. I think what she's saying is on point, because her book is coming from the perspective of the child welfare system and how the child welfare system is actually set up against our people and breaking our families up, destroying our family. And I think what she's saying is 100% right. From the things that I've read about her book, the things I looked at, very important. So it looks like you're off. I don't know what's happening. Back to the basics. You're still there? You're popping in and you're popping out. I know.
Oh, because you see, I speak a lot of truth. So, this is what usually happens when I get up on a panel, because of, how I speak.
Right,
so
right. Well, I'm gonna end it because I need to relax, get something to eat. I may go on Haps tonight. And because what I'm gonna do, back to the basics, I've come to the conclusion that I'm gonna use Haps as a way to do like news broadcast, where I'm just gonna simply do broadcasts about what's happening in the news. So I'm gonna present a different show over there, focusing on news items. And then when I have really serious videos like this with a sister like this, or anybody, whether it be Raw B on the panel talking to me or any of you, then I'm going to make sure I stay in YouTube proper. And then when I do little news clips and news things, I'll go on Haps. So I'm going to use Haps in a different man. I'm going to try to make the content over there completely different content. So now you're getting different content on the first channel, the second channel, the podcast, and then you're getting something different from Haps Television. That's how I'm going to approach it.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because the crowd, the atmosphere is different over there.
It's a different crowd, it's a different atmosphere. So I'm going to present. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
But I'm just going to present a different format. I'm going to change my name over there to Information Man Television, because I could load up stuff on Haps really quickly. And then what's great about Haps, did you know this? I didn't realize this until somebody told me over there. You can save your broadcasts on Haps to your computer, and you can reload it up to your YouTube channel. So if I broadcast on Haps and don't put it on my YouTube, I can load it up separately as a recording into YouTube proper. Even this broadcast I did with Afrikan Esquire on StreamYards. I can save this and upload it into Haps if I wanted to.
Yeah, I noticed the Valentine's Day stream that like actually automatically went up on my YouTube because of the push notifications or whatever I had in my settings. So I didn't even have to, download or upload anything.
So for example, include super chat at me. I'm gonna give him a super chat celebration in just a minute. So for example, what's great about Haps is that if you come on the panel with me, Raw B comes on the panel with me, DOD comes on the panel with me, anybody, soon as you come on the panel with me, you connect your social media. Now, everybody that follows you comes on over to the channel. Next thing you know, we got 1,000 or more people watching us because the people that's following me, they're connected to the channel. The people that's following DOD or Clue or somebody, they're connected, or Raw B or RV or Tiffany Jackson. Now you bringing your crowd right into my broadcast because it's going on to your Haps page, right? Which you're getting credit for it on Haps. So whatever the analytics are on my channel, it goes into your channel as well on your Haps channel. So you're getting the benefit as well. And next thing you know, we're converging everybody's crowd into one panel discussion. And now you got damn near maybe 500, 600, 800, 700 people, maybe 1,000 people who even are who are either watching live or who have come by to see what's going on. That's a powerful tool that Haps provides you, don't you think?
Yes, it is. That's a lot of eyes. It's a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, because you're getting eyeballs. I know for a fact there's people who like what I do on YouTube, but they rather watch it on Facebook, which is why I'm broadcasting live on Facebook right now, on my Facebook page, or like a Periscope. And Periscope, by the way, everybody, Periscope is about to go out of business. And Periscope is about to go out of business. And let me put my man Clue, who gave me a $5 super chat, says, does Haps censor? I think the same rules apply that apply on YouTube, where they don't want you doxing people. They don't want you putting false information out and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'll be honest with you. I know you're tired of me saying this. Some of the stuff that goes on in YouTube with the doxing and all that kind of stuff, it won't fly on Haps. The guys that put this together, they'll end up they'll end up getting rid of you, and you won't be able to come back on Haps anymore. So that's why it's a different audience over there. And, okay, somebody else is coming upstairs. Let's see. We can get these folks on. Get the sound together, too. Get all the good sound together. Get the good sound and everything together. Let's unmute you. And who do we have on the? We got Rob Allbanks on with us. How you doing, brother? Rob Allbanks. Okay. Rob Allbanks not saying anything. Back to the basics. What's going on? Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. Rob Allbanks, are you there?
I'm here, but I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now, my brother. I can hear you now.
Okay. Thanks for having me up, bro.
All right. Where are you at in the house, brother? Get somewhere where you can get away from the back sound, if you can.
Okay. Let me do this here. Go ahead and close this.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I just like I like the video to have a nice, somewhat clean sound without the back sound, but I really appreciate that. Because
no problem.
So go ahead, brother Rob Allbanks. You've been very supportive of the channel, brother. I appreciate that.
No problem. Well, I just wanted to give my little 2 cents about the reparations.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, sir.
I was listening to the sister, Afrikan Esquire, and she made a valid point that we do need to organize, because that's really a big problem. We have so many groups that's out here doing different things for Black people, and I'm not mad at that. But like she said, we really do need to come together, and that's the only way that we're going to get what we want from these people that supposedly have all this power. That's the only way we're going to get anything from it, because when they brought our people over here as slaves, they treated them like, ooh. I mean, I'm pretty sure we know how they treated us. I know a lot of us don't know, but you got to do your research, do your due diligence, and check some of that stuff out. And it'll have your mind, it'll blow your mind if you're not used to nothing like that. But it's a lot of stuff we as Black people we got to do to get ourselves together. And a lot of people say we're a long way away. And, you know, I could go with that because, my goodness, I'm in Alabama, y'all. And my goodness, it's woo. Sometimes I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle, but once I get with the right people or whatever, it's going to start looking better.
Right. I want to say I agree with what you're saying. We just have to figure out. I'll be honest with you, brother. I'm really
keep it 100.
I'm tired of a lot of things that have been going on. I'm tired of the fact that when things happen, Black people got to get out in the streets. We got to march. I'm tired of all those things that's happening.
True.
We shouldn't have to keep having to do all these things. So I look at it like this. Maybe just like it was generations ago, maybe things will be better for our children than it is for us. Hopefully.
And that there. And I mean this, and I don't mean to cut you off. And that right there goes with education. We need to re-educate ourselves so that we can educate ourselves, because the schools, what they're teaching in schools, I mean, you ask some young kids and they think that our history started with slavery. They don't know that Black people have been here a long time.
Right. Let me say peace to my dear brother Logic. He goes by the name YouTube Court TV. Check this brother out. Logic, I wish you was here earlier in the program. I had Afrikan Esquire on. We had a big crowd over here earlier, and I'm just getting ready to sizzle out, getting ready to end the show now. I'm glad you came over, brother. Matter of fact, let me copy and paste your channel. I got to get back over to your channel, and I love the panels that I was on your channel before in the past, brother. I got to get back over there as well. You and Straight Drop and the things that y'all do over there, brother, is fantastic. And let me pop this up here. And let me see, YouTube play games here. Now, I didn't went to the brother's channel. I could have swore I've been subscribed to the brother's channel, and they got it looking like I never subscribed to the brother's channel. This is the game that YouTube plays. See, this is why I'm not getting notifications, man. See,
they do that. They do that.
I want to beat somebody up. I mean, come on, man. I didn't subscribe to this brother's. This brother's got multiple channels, and I go to his channel, and it's got me unsubscribed. No wonder I don't get a notification. See, this is
YouTube plays a mean game.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on, YouTube. I mean.
1 minute they want you to get 1,000 subscribers and watch at least 3 minutes of videos. Next minute they tell you you only have to watch up to 10 seconds of videos. Now they want you to watch at least 5 minutes. It's some of everything. Man.
Yeah, I put my brother's link in the chat room. That's brother from YouTube Court TV. Y'all should know him as Brother Logic, man. He had a show called Sleep. What was that? Clothing, Shelter. The brother's deep, man. Brother Logic is deep, man. He got a good channel over there, and he's got multiple channels. He got all them good special effects and green screen and all sort of stuff jumping off over there. And man, yeah, YouTube, man. Look, like for example, I had about 80 people watching today overall in the watch box. But I bet you as soon as I end this stream, and I know y'all tired of me saying this, but I'm saying it for a reason. I bet you as soon as I end this screen, it'll probably say I had 600, 700, whatever. So I'm saying to myself, well, why is it that YouTube doesn't put that in the watch box? Something doesn't make sense. Something
That's what we need, our own platform,
sense.
Our own website. We need all that stuff. That's why that's why I stress the reparations and the check. I mean, the check is cool, but I need some land.
Yeah, and you're right about that. Land is the most important thing that we could have, because you got land, you got everything. Because to think about it like this, my dear brother, what was the first thing that Europeans did when they came to this land? What did they do?
They took it.
They took the land, which is why we have a place called America. America.
Exactly.
Give my best Ray Charles impression. America, right? That's why we over here, because they came over here and said, we're going to take this. Took it, and we're going to take it, and we're going to make it till we fake it, and then we're going to make it again, and then we're going to get some black folks that we're going to reclassify some of these black folks that was already here. And
take
we
them
gonna
from their
figure
lineage.
out, right, take us from our lineage, and we're going to figure out how we going to make y'all work for us. And then check this out. Let me bring this up. I think y'all have heard me say this before, everybody. When you look at unions in this country, when black people came out of Reconstruction, out of slavery, who had the most skills, Brother Allbanks, Sister Back to the Basics? Who had the most skills to build stuff in this country coming out of slavery? Who had the most skills?
I would think we did, because we actually built this place.
Right. So what happened was, you can look this up for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. There were riots all throughout America because white men were angry about black men potentially taking their jobs, because black men were the most skilled in trades, because we built the place. And so they were so concerned that there were riots over black men potentially taking the jobs from white men, which is why unions became a very important thing for white males. See, we know about the Pullman porters, on the trains with A. Philip Randolph striking, but it was really white men who made a big fuss over black men who had the skills that they were afraid of them taking their job, and that's where you have the phenomena of the importance of the union. The unions didn't have a damn thing with benefiting us. It had everything with making sure that white men not only got good wages, but they kept their jobs. Now,
and that's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's another thing. A lot of the things that us as black people, melanated people, what we have done, what we have built, I mean, my goodness. Well, to me, it's like common sense. We built everything. So quite naturally, you got these people that's coming in here. They're going to take over, the oppressors, white folks, whatever you want to call them. They take over your stuff. My goodness. And it's like we left.
Right. You're absolutely right, my brother. And Clue, you're right. If we're doing WAP videos, you're absolutely right. So let me do this. Back to the basics. You have anything you want to say? Because I'm going to play the super chat music and video for Brother Clue, and then I'm gonna get on out of here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, not much. I mean, I've agree with what everything has been said, because a lot of things that we think is for us really isn't even for us. I mean, even look at affirmative action. I mean, who is benefiting from that? So
exactly.
Right. Okay. And Rob Allbanks, my brother, again, anything you want to leave on the good people as well before I go into the celebration for Clue's $5 super chat and I end the show?
Yeah, I want to hit a super chat too, but yeah, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for inviting me up.
Tell the truth.
Hey, Rob Allbanks, do me a favor too. Remember, on the second channel, I'm going live over there. Yeah, I'm going live over there more frequently. And what I do over there is I try my best. It's kind of difficult sometimes, but I try to go about an hour 15 to maybe an hour and a half. And what I do is I drop the link in the chat room so people can come up and have a short discussion about the content. So don't sleep on the second channel, because I go over there. I go live over there more frequently. I'll probably go live tomorrow, because I did this live stream tonight. So I'm going to probably do that tomorrow and let it rest today. But if you have not, brother, you've got to look at the video that I did about the McDonald's and that brother Herb Williams and his lawsuit. I think he was on Roland Martin, and they were talking about it on Roland Martin's show. Check that out.
Okay, I'm going to have to check that out.
Because check in that video. See, I really should have did that video on my first channel. In that video, there's an article in Slate talking about how McDonald's infiltrated itself into the black community and tried to befriend us. Do you realize that when they introduced McDonald's, brother, back in the day, that in some of the black communities, when they were marketing, McDonald's was having a hard time convincing black people to eat a boneless chicken sandwich. Do you hear me?
Tell the truth.
Black people were skeptical of eating a boneless meal because why, brother? We were used to eating food at home from Big Mama and Mama and grandfather.
The chicken coop behind grandma's backyard.
Right, and one of my great grandfathers, he raised chicken. He had a chicken coop and raised them off the ground. So we were used to when we said, "Mama, can I have a chicken sandwich?" We would see Big Mama cutting the chicken up, and and we see the bones, and we see it put in a sandwich. So
right, not Popeyes.
Right, not just pop. So when McDonald's came into putting their businesses out, them infiltrating our community with their food, black people at first were very skeptical of boneless chicken sandwiches. Can you believe that?
I can believe it.
On top of that, Brother All Banks and everybody in the chat room, they had a marketing campaign where they told black people, this is how much they looked at us. They told black people, you don't have to worry, black people. You don't have to worry about tipping anyone here or wearing fancy clothes or anything. That was a marketing strategy. Oh, yes, brother.
Directed at the poor folks.
Right. In my video on my second channel, I talked about what I said to you right now very shortly. I put a picture up of one of the original McDonald's with black folks in front of it smiling and cheesing. And I said, read the article in Slate. And I give the name and the whole 9 yards. It's a long article. It really breaks it down. So what that said is that the brother Herb Williams, he owns 14 franchises. He had more of them. Do you know that they've been taking franchises away from black owners, ripping them off? And Herb Williams, he owned the first McDonald's that ever a black person owned a McDonald's. The first store that he had is the store where there was protests over the fact that McDonald's would not let a black man or a black woman have a franchise. Well, he was the original guy. He's been in a battle with them for over 40 years. Oh, you got to check out the video. Folks, go over there and check it out when you get a chance and share that video. Everybody, I appreciate it. Let me go into the super chat. And once again, Rob Allbanks, man, come back again, brother. Don't be a stranger. And thank you for your support of the channel as well, always.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. And let me give that celebration. And here we go.
Tell them run it on.
Thank you for the super chat.
I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first die. Stretch, tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first die. Stretch, tell them run it up. 9 out of 10, roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turn to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies.
All right. Thank you for the super chat. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming over again. Clue, I hope you like that. Thank you for the $5 super chat today, brother. I appreciate that. Once again, let me thank the Afrikan Esquire for coming over and blessing us with her presence, her participation with me talking, letting us know about her book. Make sure you get the book. And the book, again, I'm going to read it off again. I'm going to rattle it off again. The book, again, is called Fostering False Identity, the Child Welfare System Design of Social Control of Black Families. You can get it on paperback on Amazon for $13.99. It's also on Kindle. Go ahead and support the sister. Get that book. I want to thank everybody who came over. OBE Direct, thank you for coming over. Tiffany Jackson, I agree. Black Social Political. YouTube should leave YouTube. I wish they form a Patreon collective of widely definitely support. I would definitely support is what he's saying. So thank you again for coming on board. We had Back to the Basics that was on the panel. Rob Allbanks, Raw B, Tiffany Jackson, Everybody that's come in today to support the channel, thank you again. I'm going to get ready to get out of here. And I thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. So let's do this. Let's get on out of here and let's play the music that is appropriate for getting on out of here. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go.
Let me go for one day. Let me lose myself again. Give me something for the pain.
Thank you for the super
Always
chat.
trying to pretend that I'm not living just a lie. Broken heart and shattered lives. Let me go for one day.
Tell the
Let
truth.
me lose myself. Oh, I knew how this would end. Oh, I knew that it would die. That we would come to.
Thank you, everybody out there, for your support. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Say goodbye. Someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling. Someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling. Don't wanna think about the past. I'm crying out behind the mask. So give me something for the pain. I wanna lose myself again. Please get out of my mind. Just get out of my sight. Let me go for one day. Let me lose myself. Oh, I knew how this would end. Oh, I knew that it would die. That we would come to this.
Information is power.
Say goodbye. Someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling. Someone help
Information
me
is
free
power.
this feeling. Oh, someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling. Someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling.
Take me in your arms, do just what you want. You're the one I trust. I belong to you. And I'll always be around when I need some loving, baby. And I'll never let you down. Let you down, let you down. I'm your song, and you're playing all my melodies. There's no one else, 'cause baby, we got chemistry. You give me feelings that I never knew. This heart of mine will always and forever belong to you. You and me were meant to be as one. The universe has known it all along. Maybe this is where our story starts. Maybe it was written in the stars. Written in the stars. You, me, forever, yeah. You, me, written in the stars. You, me, forever, yeah. You, me. Take me to your heart. Take me to your soul. Never drawn apart. 'Cause I belong to you. Be my guiding star. 'Cause I need your loving, baby. And never let me down. Let me down, let me down. I'm your song, and you're playing all my melodies. There's no one else, 'cause baby we got chemistry. You gave me feelings that I never knew. This heart of mine will always and forever belong to you. You want me to be as one. The universe has known it all along. Maybe this is where our story starts. Maybe it was written in the stars. Written in the stars. You, me, forever, yeah. You,
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Take care, everybody.